All right, family. We are now live. We are now live right now, family. Let me know how the volume is, family. Rod was having a little issue hearing me a little earlier. So let me know how the volume is, family, on my end throughout the show.
I'm gonna try something.
Okay. What's good, y'all? How y'all doing out there? We about to get started. Get comfortable. Gonna have a nice little conversation tonight. All right. It's good. Y'all hear me good? Okay. Yeah, about to have a good conversation, about to bring on my brother Rod Hayes. Before I do, as usual, let me get to a commercial real quick. We'll be right back.
Magic, I can do magic. I can do 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 magic, I can do magic.
All right, family. As y'all can see, shout out to Cambada. We got the merch available. I could do magic shirt. I'm wearing one of the shirts right now, family. Let me show y'all. Wearing one of the shirts right now, family. So make y'all can head over to holyghost3.com and get your merch over there. All right, let you get your gear match your frequency. And without further ado, family, want to bring my brother Rod Hayes back to the platform, the Chief. Welcome back, brother.
Thanks, brother Rich. How's it going with you?
Hey, man, things is going good. I was in. I'm gonna tell you before. Last week, Rod, I had this feeling like I was here. I was here, but I wasn't here. It was a weird feeling. I was like a little out of it last week. Like I felt like I wasn't really here. Or some shit. Like things just felt a little weird, and that lasted for a couple of days. Then I started to feel feel like myself again. I don't know if I was getting a download or some shit or what, but it was just like a little weird feeling for a couple of days. You know what I'm saying?
You know which days it was?
Ah, man. I would say probably from Tuesday to Friday.
This past Tuesday to this past Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
It was right around Sunday, Monday, right? We entered into a gateway, an energetic gateway.
What's this? What come on, talk to me. Come on, man. What's going on? What we entered into?
We had solar flash the week of Thanksgiving.
So that was real. So what happened? I heard about that. That's some real shit. What happened, Rod?
Yeah.
What happened?
We experienced the solar flashes according to our consciousness.
Uh-huh.
If it's a solar flare that the earth or the sun and the earth is communicating, telling them to wake up a certain level of sleepers, right?
Uh-huh.
The ones that's already woke will go through what's called the slumber.
Mm. Mm.
And you will feel lethargic, like something just ain't right. I'm off a step,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right. All that is like the tides go out and then they come back in. Imagine the reason that the tide went out, which is directly related to the solar flare. The flare came in for the ones that's be a lower rank than us.
Uh-huh.
I stayed messed up from all the way to like yesterday. I slept about 19 hours.
Yeah, that sleep been serious, huh, bro?
Right, but that's all because okay. So it's imagine we running a team race. We got a team running.
Right.
The ones that's leaving a team behind energetically slow down for the rest of the team to catch up.
Oh.
Right. So that's like a metaphor to look at the energy, how to read the energy, because we can only read it according to our understanding of the 3D reality.
Right.
So all this energy transfer got to be explained in terms that regular people in 3D can wrap their brain around to facilitate a higher consciousness.
Uh-huh.
So when we use the scenario of the race or the receding tides, this is something people familiar with,
Uh-huh.
right? But it's all energy. Everything is energy, right? Which takes us to the title of this show. What's the title?
Soul Trap Matrix.
Mm-hmm. And what made you come up with that title?
Was watching some stuff on the internet. First I was watching something with this Shadow. I think the name of the YouTube channel is called The Alchemist, and this lady was talking about false light deception and how you could be tricked from the false light, and they was talking about the Flash. Since you brought up the Flash, before you die, you know that Flash that we all see and we think it's the white light. We go to that white light, our ass come back into this realm. Just a lot of talk about this realm.
It's a couple of things that they don't consider when they tell you that angle of perception.
Uh-huh.
When you study anybody, like if you study the story of the Buddha, why do he call it enlightenment?
Why?
At some point, you get a flash of light.
Mm-hmm.
You cross it from the physical, 3D mind to the fourth dimensional spiritual mind unity. So collective consciousness, that's everybody thinking at the same time all over the world, all species of animals, great and small, creates what we call the collective unconscious, which is the subconscious mind of everything that's thinking at the same time. They are drawn from this prime reservoir of thought, 100 monkey effect. You had a show not too long ago with Bedell when he was telling you 85% of the people might be NPCs. You remember that?
Right.
Right. This is why the 5% poor righteous teachers is the only ones that can reach them. Right? The 1%ers know it. Right? So they send 4% at the 5%, or they send, let me see, 9% at the 5% to shut them down so they never wake up to 85%. Right? So the 1%ers got people that's scattered throughout the 85% and the 5% that work for the 1%. We call them turncoats and traitors. Right? But that's not really what's going on. What's really going on is they don't know they work for them people. They like the Agent Smith effect in the Matrix.
Okay.
All right. Now, when the Buddha becomes enlightened, he experiences a flash of light. Everybody that died experienced the same flash of light. People that have near-death experience, they come back and tell you that they experienced the same flash of light. Their life is always changed after the event. It's always changed. It's never the same. They've been upgraded to another level. Well, when we get together and say enough is enough, the 5% poor righteous teachers, that wakes up the 85% because they don't know which way to go if we don't show them the right way. The 5% is also called the poor righteous teachers because everything they do is what's right. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you agree or disagree, if the poor righteous teachers all agree on it, they can only all agree if it's a righteous endeavor, a righteous act. Otherwise, the others of the 5%ers is going to correct them, and it's going to look like a murder of crows. Because they don't like the invaders, the imposters in the mix, while they trying to deliver the 85% into a righteous future. But here go the problem. The 5% has to be instructed first, or they won't know what to do. Enter Clarence 13X, aka Father God Allah Pudding. Right? He told Elijah Muhammad, our culture is this tobacco. Our culture is that marijuana. Our culture is them boys on the street that don't nobody want to deal with, right? So the only way we gonna ever take over, we need a dog in that fight, right? Because we gonna rebel. We gonna rebel against the strict, regimented structure of the Nation of Islam, except for a small few, because they designed to hold a certain position in the community. They genetically engineered to follow Elijah Muhammad, knowingly or unknowingly. And some of them are genetically engineered, knowingly or unknowingly, to be infiltrators, to come in and try to get as close to Farrakhan as you can to bring the nation down from the inside out. Farrakhan's job is to make sure that he got lions at every gate. You're not getting in here. Because they got in before, so Elijah had to let it all be destroyed. So Farrakhan can build it up minus the infiltrators. So now that he's did that part, he got to go to all of the tribes. The government called those tribes gangs, right? And he needed to throw up a smoke screen to allow us to all congregate on the land in the face of the enemy, to show them that we all agree this shit over with, right? So what did he do? He called the Million Man March. All of this is geared to getting the 85% on the same page of something, right? That's why when I say free Larry Hoover, I had all them addendums beneath what that means. Free Larry Hoover means free Jeff Fort, Chief Malik Angel Bay. Free Larry Hoover means stop the violence on our children and our women, right? So when you get to adding this up, you could sum it all down into a single mission statement. Ain't no one of us greater than the rest of us, but if we incorporate the rest of us under the one that's supposed to be the spokesman, then everybody get on the same page. Now the 5% is heavy knocking, what they call guerrilla knocking, for the 85% to come out of the slumber. They'll never see it if you don't have people like Yaki Awaken. You don't have people like Phase One. Everybody think we're not gonna agree on everything, because the chiefs got to be stubborn, hard-headed, and hard to handle if they gonna hold their position. So everyone that was sent out here to inform our people of the redemption process is a poor righteous teacher. Now, I can go through all of the community and show you all of these tribes is, the poor righteous teachers, the leadership, the reorganization and restructure, but the soul trap becomes the issue. Because the illusion of a soul trap is leading you down into darkness. You can't get in here without knowing what you're coming here for. This is called a soul contract from point zero. Before you incarnate into the physical realm to come fight in this war, you have to agree to live the life that you're going to live when you get here, good, bad, or indifferent. You can't come here without that agreement. They can't flip you around on your agreement, but they can offer up somebody else of equal or higher standing in the community as a sacrifice to put an obstacle in your path. Use us against us. Right? But you can't get in here without getting the book of life at the beginning. Even the non-NPCs, the non-player characters, have a book of life. That's their predestined path.
So, Rod, it doesn't matter if you go to that white light at your time of death. That doesn't have impact on what reincarnation.
No.
Okay.
No. That's mythology.
That's mythology.
Yeah. That's something to conceal the truth with a barrier of fear.
Uh-huh.
The light came out of the darkness.
Uh-huh.
So why would the darkness fear going into the light? That doesn't even make sense. That's an oxymoron to me.
So Rod, you also don't. So all right. So this is not a soul trap because we agreed to be down here, and we're not. This is not like a jail sentence because that's another famous way of looking at it now in the New Age community. This is like a jail sentence for the soul. So this is not a jail sentence. You're saying?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
This is the game of the gods. That's all it is.
You said that with confidence. You
That's
said
what
that
it
like
is.
a god. You said that
Look.
like a god.
Look, when you go play Monopoly, you know that it's a game about real estate and business.
Yeah.
This is a plutocracy. It's a holographic video game. We somewhere else with headsets on. I'm just telling y'all inside the game to wake up to the game so they can't keep running the game on you because they can't run it on you once you see it. And that's the trick, is to keep you, see, in the game, you got to have opposition. The chapter we coming out of is called Misery. Right? Mm-hmm. You hear them people that go out against Noble Drew Ali say that he plagiarized part of the Circle 7 from the Aquarian Gospel by Levi Dowling, which I'm going to get to that in a minute. But the other part is, it's a book called Unto Thee I Grant, The Economy of Life, that was taken from a Tibetan temple by the Rosicrucians. Right? And in that book, he get the chapter called Misery out of there. Well, where did these the Tibetan monks that had the manuscript, where did they say it came from? They said it came from Egypt. So that means that it was part of what's known as the pyramid text. They tell you that it was written by Menhotep III, the first philosopher known to man. Right? But what is he telling you? Because we gonna be scared of the pain, but we gonna use the fear to inflict more pain up on ourselves in the name of ignorance. Mm-hmm. So we gonna continue to suffer until we can educate ourselves out of the matrix. How do you do that? Your brain is operating on the same principle that the computer is, your cell phone. Mm-hmm. There is apps, we call them sigils. You can write your own app. That means you can write the code. Right. And you can store that app on your screen, and then you can put it in auto mode where it'll activate when it's needed. Mm-hmm. Everybody should have been taught sigil writing in school, but they never wanted to teach you that because they didn't know the apps that you would write. And the imagination of the child is so terrifying to the control system. Because the creativity of the child is the only remedy to break free from the control system. Right? So you gotta enjoy the game, even though it's a game of misery. But you don't got no emotions when you're not in the physical form. So everything that you experience, the good emotions and the bad emotions, right? They all contribute to the experience of the game of the gods. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. The highest expression of the game of the gods when you win is what they call sexual gratification or eternal bliss, right? Those are metaphoric terms to describe how to navigate this thing we call the matrix or the game of life, aka the game of the gods. Right. At the end, when everybody done, because everybody gonna do their own little thing, some gonna up, some gonna do something that's good. We're gonna exalt the good stuff, and we're gonna point the finger at the bad stuff and say, stay away from that. Right? Mm-hmm. But who gonna fix the bad stuff if they stay away from it? So the ones who come in determined to fix all of the bad shit is what we call the problem child, because they always trying to experience the bad shit. Right? Yep. That's exactly right. He 100%. Divinely prepared and authored is two different things. But the whole thing was Noble Drew Ali wrote the Circle 7 to pass codes to other chiefs. He wrote the Circle 7 to give us an insight into the games being played on us. Right? Now, he could, if he wrote it in his own words, he would have been violating the rules of the game because he could have flat out told us. He can't flat out tell us because he would be violating the rules of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's mastered the game already. So the only time the masters can tell the rest of the students the direct answer is at the end of the game. Final exams is an oral exam. Everybody's coming for the PhD, right? And it's all oral exams. All these guys you seeing now that's coming out, a lot of them coming on your channel,
Mm-hmm.
they coming to get their PhD. They coming to show their worth to the rest of the elders so that they'll know that the future, we're going into a golden age, is in the hands of the right people for the right reasons to produce the right conditions in order for us to live a righteous life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's going to take people like me that went the wrong way first to come back to the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I done seen both sides now. Now I know what the trick is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's going to take people that is ornery and stubborn and act like they the only ones on earth know something, but they're going to always have somebody they give honors to.
Right.
Right? You can go try to argue with Farrakhan, and what the first thing he's going to say? Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me. Even in the end of Malcolm days, after leaving the Nation of Islam, they asked him, like a couple days before he died, he said, I still believe that the messenger, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is the best thing for our people in this day and time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't want to remember that because we want to point the finger at the Nation of Islam for the loss of our beloved shining black prince.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't want to look at the government who actually now is coming out. I've been saying it for years, and they told me I was crazy that the nation did it, but I've been telling them for years it's right in the fucking FBI files the government did it. And they didn't want to hear it. Now the government is confessed. It's been drug out in the open. The dirty players has told the story the same way I told the story 30 years ago when I barely knew what the fuck I was looking at. Right? So now we know the government had Malcolm killed, but Malcolm still, right before he died, said that he believed that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the best message or the best programs for us. Right? Now remember, he's in the fledgling days of the Organization of African American Unity. Right? And he got an Islamic group. I forgot the American Muslim Mission, right? That he started that incorporated pale faces into the fight, right? But all of this is once you get to a certain level and you see the game being played, don't nobody got to tell you where to go. You go fill the hole that's there.
Right.
You go fill the position. And once you plug that hole, can't nobody get past you. You need a dog in every fight.
Indeed.
So you're not trapped here, right? But what you are is you contracted.
Contract, not trapped, contracted.
It's a difference.
What about
And the only way to get back to the oldest contract is to know the history of the earth. Because you get to the oldest contract, the first contract is between Mama and Mother Earth.
That's the first. So say this again. The first contract.
The first contract is between Mama and Mother Earth, which is Big Mama, which is Prime Creator. That
And
Earth be a feminine planet. That's the first contract to Earth. That's why no matter what society around the planet you go in, Earth is always referred to as her.
Right.
It's always feminine gender. That's because the first contract is the termination of the gender of the planet. By determining the gender of the planet, you determining the rules by which to enter the planet. This is what we call the uterus connection and the mitochondrial frequency. This is why only women pass mitochondrial. They have the right to inherit the earth. But the woman inherits the earth. The man is the husband, the caretaker of the woman in the earth.
Ain't that? I get lost in the whole Anunnaki thing with you and Billy be talking, but don't a dude own Earth? They said Marduk or something.
Okay, this is what we call the Great Infiltration, and that led to something called the Great Debauchery. You always hear Bobby Hemming talk about the Great Debauchery, but he never tell you what it was, right? Because this was a feminine planet, there's rules to the galaxy that extend beyond the planet.
Right. Okay.
One of them is what they call the right of conquest, which is the divine right of kings. To conquer and subdue a land and make it their own and establish a new set of rules and regulations, a new set of guidelines. Right? So the only way to topple the patriarchs is the ones doing this. We call them rogue patriarchs. Rogue is an anagram for rouge. Rouge means red. We talking red house. Infiltration of the bloodline, which was how they infiltrated the tribes by marrying people that look like us to our daughters, but they ain't us. They got an agenda. Right? And they got this, it's a term for it. A man that married a chick for her stuff, he a sweetheart swindler. Right? That's what they call them. Sweetheart swindlers. So they come in, they pretend they woo the woman, marry her. Then when ain't nobody looking, they poison her off, scratch Big Mama name out the big house. So now it ain't Big Mama house no more, it's just the big house. And then they bring in people to mislead the rest of the family that's at Big Mama house and change and implement a plan. The implementation of the plan is the plantation. Plan is the root, and the TION is the action. The plantation is the implementation of the plan that they came with. Right? So it's a fifth dimensional chess game. That's the Queen's Land. But it's initiated from flying kings, which is in the reverse. It's a flip on the turnaround. They actually seafarers who come and their colors is black and red. Right? But on the checkerboard, they call it the flying kings. But in the flip is the as above, so below. They came as seafarers. They're telling you the secrets openly in the games, but you ain't gonna never figure it out because it's designed for you to be perpetually confused about the life you live. Right? So the signs and symbols being for a conscious mind, the only way for a mind to be conscious is somebody to give them the description of the symbols. What does the symbolism say? Right? So the symbolism say that the flying kings came over to enforce misery on the land using a color code because they come from the red and black to the black and white. They went from the King's Board, Admiralty jurisdiction, and overran the land, which is the Queen's land. All of the land belonged to the women, but the men can govern the sea. And sea is a real catch term, or because there's a whole lot of stuff concealed in that word. SEE, SEA, the letter C, which is short form for crypt, which ties back to the Blue House. The Blue House infiltrated on the boats, on the land. So the boat on the land is a sub. A sub on land is called a bus. It's a backflip in order to deceive the man. So all the time they telling you that the highways is rivers. And you and all of your cars are boats. So when you're looking for a carpenter, you're not looking a carpenter boat builder. You're looking for a builder that's actually an automaker, right? Because we're in a different era. The terminologies evolve with time. Time is to make sure you cannot negate or exclude something called process, because it's by process in which time is perceived. The mind can't perceive time, right? Unless there's steps along the way. Each step unfolds the realization of the day going by, right? And at the end of every day, you go into the night, which is the dark. But in the dark, you awaken to the true self in the dream. And the true self roam the dreamland in order to come back and teach itself how to navigate the Queensland. How do we get from under the Admiralty jurisdiction back to the law of the land? You have to flip the calendar and you have to flip the map, right? So 2012, the Mayan calendar, which is the oldest known calendar, came to its conclusion. What happens now? It resets. It's the only thing it can do. Y2K, the computer is going to all go back to zero. What's going to happen? Everybody panicking. Ryan said, ain't nothing to panic. All it's going to do is reset the computer time. That's all it's going to do. It ain't going to do nothing to the data, but everybody get data back up, secure your computer, get this new XPS protection system, make sure you got plenty because they're going to cut off the lights. That doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Because they ran on an analog counter that turned over often and it never reset everything. So you would automatically know when you create a digital counter at the conclusion, it has to reset back to the beginning. But this takes us back to the Mayan calendar, the close of the age. The last time we took these people to full-fledged war was the War 1812. And the reason why we ain't took them to war in combat on the battlefield no more, because we refuse to give these son bitches another extension. Which goes back to Martin Luther King adopting Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent protest. Because it's not about can we beat them with arms. We already did that. But they wouldn't stop coming, and we reduced the populations on both sides so low. Now we have to rebuild on both sides. We do and they do. But we got to do it in the dark. They don't know who we is, or we don't know who they is, in order to maintain the level playing field. But it's all in the game of the gods. It's understanding the rules of the board games. It's understanding the rule of the child games, because that's where all of the secrets is at. The stuff that just comes natural to the children, like hopscotch. You don't have to teach them how to hopscotch. If you put enough girls together, they're going to draw out a hopscotch board, or they're going to find somebody that know how to draw one out and ask them to make a one, and they're going to automatically know how to hopscotch. Right? Those are the steps. It's programming their body to take the steps. You give girls a jump rope, so they're going to start off single jumping, and it ain't going to be long. They're going to be double dutching. Because the challenge that a skill set goes up, they're going to naturally figure out how to get themselves a greater challenge. And in the progression of jump rope, double dutch is the next progression beyond single jump. Right? Because they done went through everything in single jump with the big rope, with the little rope, with the solo rope, with the two ends held, with the dance in the middle, with the gymnastics in the middle. So now they got to go to double dutch. Right? And then you got so good at double dutch where you got teams that's double dutching all at the same time in unison across 6-8 different ropes. Right? Because that's evolution. Right? And the side effect of evolution is entropy. You got to get rid of something in order to hold on to something. In order to keep what's good, you got to get rid of what's bad. Entropy.
Right.
Right. So it's the same with people. Sometimes you got to get rid of something good to get something better. You got two aces, a queen, a king, and a jack in your hand. See, you can get rid of the ace and go for the straight, the royal flush, or you can get rid of the jack and try to get trip aces. You see, you got to get rid of something good to get something better. Either way, you got to give up something good, right? And then the rules of the game being played, as long as they follow the rules and give us an opportunity to grasp it in the game of the gods, as we increase in intelligence, we should gradually start to see these receipts roll out in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can slide through and just look at the receipts now. You know what it is. You read in reality like a tarot card at that point.
Rod, I don't know if I know I talked to Brother Yosef about ghosts, but in terms of souls that don't have a body, but they seem to be stuck down here, what happens with ghosts in this 3D realm, Rod?
Ain't nobody stuck. That's the first thing.
Okay.
But you got to remember, there's multiple timelines next to each other. Go watch this series called Sliders that came on Sci-Fi, and it'll help you to understand what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Your light spectrum is so narrow, it could be a person that vibrate on a light spectrum outside of your field of vision that you won't be able to see them. But a trained psychic will sense them.
Right.
Right? And then you have untrained psychics who might even be able to see them. And when they see them, they look like an apparition. They call them a ghost. No, they're just outside of your field of perception. They also did an episode on the X-Files about people you can only see in your peripheral. It's the same thing, because your peripheral is black and white. It don't even see in the color context. But when you look in direct, all of the color from direct vision gives you the illusion that your peripheral is seeing color as well. So it fills in the blank spots.
Since our light spectrum is so narrow in this realm, when we inhabit the body, the people who we call ghosts, is their light spectrum just as narrow, or are they seeing us and they're seeing shit that we're not seeing?
Could be either of the two. Okay, so we live in what's called the realm of infinite probability.
Right.
If you can think it in your mind, it's true.
Okay.
No matter how fairy tale like it sounds, if you can form it into thought because of infinite possibility, in one of the timelines, it's real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But just not this one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you go to Operation Looking Glass, all things converge on the awakening or the mass awakening. How do you awaken the masses? Mm-hmm. You don't. You awaken the 5% pro-righteous teachers. That's how the masses awaken on the 100 monkey effect. Because as soon as enough pro-righteous teachers realize what's being taught and they start aligning, the natural effect is when the alphas walk in the room, everybody turn and look. Right? They want to see what the alpha gonna do. If a beta walk in the room, everybody look like they did when the alpha walked in the room. And how do you know the difference? Right? I used to tell people a long time ago, when leadership is needed, anybody can fill the part as long as they look like the position. Right? That's how they trick us. That's called uniform in the codes. The uniform is the deception. So the right people, the ones been right the whole time, is the ones we've been calling the criminals, because the system made laws to criminalize culture. And that's how they trap all us in their system. We can't see it, right? Because we not understanding the code, the color code. So they use the color code to turn us against each other with flag colors, what we call, I'm holding down my set, you holding down your set, my set blue, your set red, your set black and gold, your set purple, right? So we all hold down our set with a flag. We didn't have flag laws over here. The law of flag came from Europe. It came from maritime jurisdiction, right? But now we go from flags and colors being united to being united in the colors of the flag. It's a whole kind game being ran under the flag, the red, white, and blue. And it's based on the colors. Who gave us the keys to the colors? Frances Wellesley. Remember ISIS papers, keys to the colors? She was telling you the whole time that black and white ain't got nothing to do with skin color, they positions on the chessboard. And she was telling you the whole time that in bowling, 3 strikes is a turkey. That means they got 3 chiefs in the land. Right? We didn't understand the tribal lingo. There's the carryover from the descriptive analysis of what's being said.
Right.
Right? So the original redneck was a Brit, but the original Brit was melanated. And we thought that the Brits was the Saxons, but it tells you clear that no Anglo-Saxon or Caucasian is a free white person in law. It tells you that clearly in the Black's Law Dictionary. Well, then who in the hell is? Because we thought they was white. They ain't white. In law, they blacken to become pale. It's all trickery. It's all trickery. The keys to the colors is to know that no colors matter. Nature knows no color line, J.A. Rogers. Right? That means that y'all judging somebody based on something that's not a part of the natural makeup. What nature judge? Right? God don't like what? Ugly. Nature judges beauty and pageantry. That's the way of the earth. How do you usurp that? You turn it from creative potentialities to vulgar expressions. Right? It's all trickery. It go back to ancient Babylon sex magic. Right? The simulated sex act spiritually took place. But physically, it's an energy exchange. Spiritually, it took place. And that simulated sex act plays out in the mind of the players who are in charge of the game. And that's why we keep telling y'all it's all fuckery. That's why Bobby Hemmitt kept saying it's fuckery. Right? It's bullshit. It's deception. It's trickery. Right? So they tell us in all of these different fairy tale stories, your Odin stories, your Thor stories, but they tell us don't pay that no attention. That's mythology. We want you to study history. And then they give us a whole book of lies and say this your history. See the trick?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they took you from the mystery system, which was my story, to the history system, which was his story, in order to delude and deceive the minds. But when the people realize what's being done, they can't, all of it stopped working. You building an armor, an impenetrable armor, that the 85% starts to wake up. All they got to do is look. And then the 5% make a move. But the 5% can't make the move until the 85% on board.
Rod Hayes, when I was doing research on the whole soul trap thing, and I was reading up on these entities from the 4th dimension, harvesting the soul's energy in this realm, I came across a lot of David Icke work. I'm curious, what's your thoughts on we're talking about teachers and people bringing information to the masses. What's your thoughts on the work David Icke has brought to the world? Because some people say he's an agent. Some of his information I vibe with. I'm curious as to what's your thoughts on David Icke and the whole reptilian archon and all that other stuff.
There was a reptilian archon that lived under the Vatican that gave the Pope and the Crown of England their orders. That's no longer the case.
Okay.
All right. That bitch been dead since 2020. There was underling archons that carried the message to other countries that would put on human skin masks.
So that was facts.
That was true.
Hmm.
Also, Credo Mutwa, the Zulu Sanusi,
Yeah.
verified the reptilian agenda.
Uh-huh.
But what those people were what you call interdimensional beings. They was brought into the earth through a stargate. They was brought in by the one we call Yahweh in the Bible and Zeus in mythology. We call him Enlil in the ancient tablets.
So Enlil brought in the reptiles.
He conjured them up. That's his other family.
That's his other family.
They mirror images of the earth.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right. This is why they put the mirror verse in the Doctor Strange movie. Right. Because once you trap them in the mirror, they can't get out. So they use mirror magic against the Earth Sisters. And they broke the mirror on the crossroads. That's since been reversed. Right. And so once the mirror magic has been reversed, now we got to work on clearing up the lines in the mirror so that all of the sisters can see one mother when they look in the mirror. Right. But you still got the cracks that's working on being cleared up.
Right.
Right. And while the mirror got cracks in it, it becomes a prism. Right. So it looked like you're looking through 1,000 mirrors and seeing 1,000 reflections. But it's when they all come together, they make one reflection. And we call that reflection the Great Mother. As above, so below. Right. So the God man is the man who got enough self-confidence to tell you that the woman is prime creator. Right. Because most of the men is stuck in their ego and they want the God of all creation to have testicles. That's not the case. It tell you that in first trimester, what they call gender identification. When the female, all fertilized eggs are female up into a point.
Right.
When the mitochondrial scan the DNA, it can either make it male and turn on the testosterone, progesterone ratios to make the testicles and the penis drop, or it could leave it to default, and then it'll be a YX male. Or female, I should say, a YX female, inverted genetics. It looked like a female physiologically, but under the microscope, you see an XY chromosome. We call them seahorses. Right. But that's the answer that nature gave to the ones who came through the Stargate. That's how we know them. And these is the Harvey Weinsteins with the altered genitalia. Right. Because they seahorses. The females got an Audi. The males got an innie. They males at their appearance determines their rank. When they came to Earth, they didn't look like humans, but after we killed them, they went through phases where they was able to assimilate on the DNA on a very specific codon that determines the physiology of this level of sentient being. All those creatures in mythology has to come into the Earth realm in the form of a human. If you look close, you can see the ones that look like spider monkeys, them long ass arms. That's a throwback to the Atlanteans, the sea monkeys. The ancient Atlanteans had a shorter torso and longer limbs because they spent the majority of their time in the water. Right. So they developed. You remember when you was little and you get a comic book and they got an advertisement for sea monkeys in the back of it?
Yeah.
That's a drawing of an Atlantean.
Damn.
And we still see them today, but we don't know they're Atlanteans. And some people that's quasi-conscious call them reptilians, but they're not necessarily reptilian either. They're a unique hybrid. Reptilian mammalian hybrid. which was the original evolutionary process of the planet until it was interrupted, which brings you into when we talking about the God of the Bible intervening, or the Anunnaki intervening in the natural progression of the species of the earth. But the species of the earth been sentient before the Anunnaki came. But it was through military conquest that threw everything off after agreements was made, contracts. See, when Enki came and Alelu came first, he agreed not to attack the planet with his Anunnaki hordes because he had lost to Anu. And when Enki came, he made Enki promise not to overthrow the matriarchy. So this is what made them, when they got attacked by the Andromeda beings, do the contract for the dinosaurs and give them so many millions of years to hunt. But remember, time is an illusion. It's only the space events and to roll out what's called process. Mm-hmm. Without that, you can't perceive time. Right? So when we digging down into the earth, we dig through the strata and we say, this is from this amount of time ago. Well, it depends. It's not always true, because you have upheavals where deeper earth surfaces, and then you have erosions where higher earth is taken low. So all of these things is process of creation, because creation never stopped. It's a continuous process. And as long as the process is processing, you're going through process. So as long as creation is creating, things have to change, right? We don't have to mentally change, but our conditions and circumstances of life have to change. But then the side effect of that is it makes the mentality change, right? Now we got to take control of this great egregore called the universal mind. This is what 85% come into play, because the majority of them is the makeup of the universal mind. Even though they NPCs, their input becomes critical. So now you have to have what's called a master computer telling all the other computers what the proper program is in order for the binary code to be processed throughout the whole system correctly. So now they're trying to figure out the star of life. Right? They don't know what it looked like in 3D. They can't figure it out. Right? Well, when you go to lining people up in rows, you'll start to see it, because everybody got an auric field. Enough auric fields give you that pattern that's called star of life. Right? And then they have what's called the two pyramid star life that they hold. Tahuti got in his hands in the emerald tablets, right? But the one I'm talking about, it looked like a Casa leaf triangle with about 20 different triangles in it, all these different symbols in it. Look like Vesica Pisces in there, circles in there, triangles, all these different symbols, but it's a circle. You see that in the temples of Dendera. And you also see them a lot in other temples around the world. And it look like all these wedge shapes. That's called the collective unconscious. That's the unified auras of all of the people that said enough is enough. And that's how the game is changed at the close of age. And that's why the post-righteous teachers is ineffective until it's time for their effect to take place. Which take us back to Operation Looking Glass and the convergence in on the singularity. Because that's all it's about. Evolve to a point, stop, reset, and then do a new evolution to a different point. It's a relay race. You're on mute.
Yeah, this is real interesting, Rod. I'm glad you talked about the whole idea of this being a soul trap, and you brought up the soul contract and all that. A lot of people, what would you say, Rod, for many people watch. We got 3,100 people watching right now. A lot of people dislike this realm, Rod. They're like, a lot of people feel as though, and they're spiritual people, and they're like, I don't belong in this motherfucker, Rod. I hear what you saying. I don't belong in this motherfucker. What would you say to a person that they don't have ambitions of being great? They just want to get the fuck up out of here, Rod. What we
It ain't here. It's the condition they trying to escape.
It's not okay. Say that again. Say that again, Rod.
It's not here. That's the problem. It's the conditions. It's the conditions. We living in the chapter called misery. If they don't feel that way, then the hologram not working. Because how do Elijah Muhammad say dissatisfaction brings about a change? Total dissatisfaction brings about a total change. In other words, change only happens according to the most amount of dissatisfaction. Right? So we trying to get 100 monkey effect of 5%ers to affect the 85%. Right? So it ain't here. It's the conditions that we feel. We feel this shit. The frequency is off. The earth tone is not earth toning. Because when the frequency is correct, when we in a golden age, we have heaven on earth. But when we going through the chapter called misery, we got hell on earth. Which is harsh conditions to aggravate the sentient 5%, to make them so disgusted and dissatisfied that whatever it is that they do, they're going to use that to try to find their freedom.
Lisa said, when will the misery chapter be over? Lisa.
Hey, I've been crying. Hey, look, I've been wanting this chapter over for the longest, but in the mortal words of Big Mama, baby, it take how long it takes. Right? But it's just the chapter of misery.
Yeah.
If you don't understand that the misery is the greatest teacher, then you ain't ready to be free from the chapter of misery. Misery will teach you to avoid some shit that you will never learn any other way. A miserable condition gonna make you bring about a happy condition. It's gonna make you pursue a benevolent condition with a rational mind until you find a revolutionary conclusion that we can all be proud of. The only remedy to the system right now is to divorce yourself from it. Everybody is scared to say, take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Johnny Paycheck. They don't want to do that because we conditioned so long that it take a certain amount of time to break the conditioning. When you realize that you already rich and they using your money and they paying you out your pocket on your job with your own self money and you just don't know it, that's going to make you quit automatically. Right? Because you're going to be like, I'm sick of this. I'm fed up. But we're going to talk about it for a period of time until we know what action to take. That's why we're talking about it. We vexing and venting and trying to find who else is aware. Right? So while we vexing and venting, other people coming along saying, yeah, man, I feel the same way. Something ain't right. What is it? Now we got them asking the right question. This is not how Earth is supposed to operate. Why do the tribes that live in the jungle have less stress than the tribes that live in the inner city?
That's a $1 million quote.
In the chapter of misery, everything is made complicated by devices. Right? So all of the technology and the advances of technology is the sacrificing of your peace, your inner peace. Because it's all being expressed as technological advancements. Outer peace. Right? But when you stop looking for outer peace and start searching for inner peace, now you're looking for the inner God because that's the only one can tell you where it's at. And that's how you really win the game. The inner God in you gonna make you do what Brother Rich doing or what Ryan Hayes doing in your lane that's gonna make you the most effective in turning over the system. Everybody got their own lane. Everybody ain't supposed to do what Rich doing. You perfectly engineered to be perfectly you. As long as you be you, you be perfect. Right?
I like that. I like that saying. Like that.
You're not engineered to be nobody else.
Yeah.
We all got a job, and our job is to be our best self first. If you don't be your best self first, you can't help nobody else. Right? And that's why the 5%ers work is the hardest, because they always start off with the self-work. They work from the inside out. The rest of the world is working on the outside, trying to figure out how to find peace within. Right? But the 5%ers is the pauper guys that ain't playing in the game, trying to find out how to change the game. So they take on all the suffering that the chapter of misery has to offer. And the more powerful they are, the most suffering they take on. When we see them, it's played out in the 3D. They bums, hobos, homeless, they destitute. They was millionaires that went broke and lost their mind. Right? They didn't go broke and lose their mind. They found their mind and went sane and gave up their pursuit of an illusion. Right? Once everybody give up the illusion, then you grasp the reality. You go from fiat money to hard currency. You go from trading in paper bills with no value to trading in silver and gold. Right? You go from offering up your services for credit to fair exchange. Ain't no robbery. I'm not doing shit if you ain't going to compensate me properly. You're going to know your self-worth, therefore you can't be cheated. Right?
I think I asked you this on one of our Patreon shows, Rod. The world leaders, like the Putins of the world, are they controlled by? We was talking earlier about the archons and all of that. Are they controlled by like a extraterrestrial group, a secret extraterrestrial group, Putin and Kim Jong-un and the rest of them, or are they really? Is it them making moves?
It boils down to two factions on Earth right now. Those who fighting for the matriarchy, Putin one of them, and those who
Putin fighting for the matriarchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kim Jong-un, one of them. His sister, the real leader, but he can't tell nobody yet.
His sister?
His sister, the real leader in North Korea, but they can't tell nobody yet until all of the rest of everybody wake up. America is the last stronghold. We the hardest ones to wake up because we got the most masters on the land right now.
What do you mean we have the most masters on the land, Rod? What do you mean?
So let's say the 5%, almost all of them is in America. The rest of them is scattered around the world, but almost all of the 5% is here.
Damn.
This becomes the driver's seat. The America's become the driver's seat of the great egregore, right? And because it's the way that the ley lines are set up and the earth chakras is set up. We got different parts of the world responsible for different functions at different times. So we know we're going into an Aquarian age. That means that we're going to have air governed by water, which symbolically means spirit governed by thought. That means you're going to be doing spiritual things in a thoughtful manner. And this is what's going to expose everything that was underwater in the age of Pisces. Our heads was underwater. We were seeing on the land, but we were slightly off center.
Right.
Now we are our head above water in Aquarius. Then spiritually, we can see and apply intellect in order to determine if we're going in the right direction. Right. Once we do that and we start to dismantle, we become the great iconoclastic generation. If you look now, hardly any of these youngsters is falling for the old Bible Jesus stories.
Right.
They talk about stuff that our parents and grandparents could barely grasp in their era. Just the basic science of atoms. My daddy came to you, baby. I didn't go to school for that. I don't know what you're talking about. Right? But I can tell you what he couldn't tell you about the atom. Proton, neutron, electron, positive, neutral, and negative charges work together in order to give the atom its density and weight. Basics of science, right? But my mama, she can tell you all about the Jesus story, but she ain't never did the etymology of the word Jesus to find out it's Isis in Greek. And the New Testament wasn't in Hebrew, it was wrote in Greek. So who was the Isis 2,000 years ago? That means who was the Pharaoh? That we don't have the tomb. We don't have the grave. There's no Pharaoh in this grave that would have been Isis 2,000 years ago. And it's only one. That's Cleopatra. The name Cleopatra means sea, Leo, panther. Right now we talking about, look at the lioness, Sekhmet, and the house of the panther for the answer. All that's coded Masonic lingo. But your degrees, you got to master your degrees. What the hell is that? The Bible is given to you in chapters and verses. That means stages and degrees of learning. So as you assimilate a chapter, you're supposed to be assimilating a chapter of the book of life. It's supposed to be 80, but they only going to give you 66. So where's the 14? That's 2 masters missing. One is Hiram Biff, the other is the Black Madonna. And only when Hiram is raised will you know who the Black Madonna is. The Black Madonna is Big Mama. And Hiram is the master builder, the grand architect. In order to be the grand architect, you got to be able to engineer and reverse engineer the construct. And we did that with Brother Billy. Did you see us reverse engineer the construct?
Yeah. Y'all son, when y'all get together, you and Billy, man. Y'all son, man.
Look, that's why they don't got it. That's why they don't send us across the same path, because Rakim said it best. Anybody ever told you a little knowledge is dangerous? It can't be mixed, diluted. It can't be changed or switched. Yeah. When you put 2 powerhouses together, from like me and him, I'm gonna feed off him. He gonna feed off me, and it's like a little minor nuclear explosion in the mind. If you do it too often, you destroy some shit. But if you strategically place it, you can clean up some shit.
Wow. Yeah. That was one of the most powerful shows I had this year when you and that brother was on, man. I want to get to a couple of questions before we get out of here. I know that people want to ask Rod a couple of questions. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Definitely loving this show. I see y'all love it in the chat. I'm gonna do about 4 or 5 questions before the brother Rod Hayes get out of here. Give me some questions in the chat. In the meantime, I think shout out to everybody who sent the super chat. I think we got a couple of questions in the super chat. All right, this brother wants to know, okay, so Mr. Hayes, what are you going to do after death? They want to know.
Die again. What I'm going to do after death is I'm going to come back to life. I got an eternal job. Every time the earth get this fucked up, I got to come back and tell them where to find all the secrets at.
So you accept that. You know that's your job.
That's why I was created. I'm the earth defender. Whatever the problem the earth got and can't nobody else figure it out, they gonna conjure my ass up in the future. I'm gonna be mad as hell that they woke me up from my slumber. Like I'm mad as hell now. I'm gonna kick and scream, but I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna cry sometime. I'm gonna cuss sometime. I'm gonna punch the wall sometime. I'm gonna crash into a wall with a car sometime. All that because I don't want to be bothered with this petty bullshit. But it really ain't petty bullshit. It's because somebody had to be the final stop in order for us to start again. and that's the only thing that give you any solace. I get to experience the new beginning.
Mm.
But I don't have to like it.
Mm. That's powerful, bro. That's powerful. All right, okay, so this person says Malcolm was mixed, Booker T was mixed, and these brothers are so important to our people. But where do mixed people stand in this war? When we say we're black, our own people shut us down. Okay, so this is a biracial. This is a mixed brother. He wants to know
Listen,
what
my mama was mixed,
uh,
right? And I'm glad he brought this question up, because the whole purpose of this is the great debauchery. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning, and I said Bobby Hemming never tell you what the great debauchery was.
uh-huh.
It was to trap the consciousness into a construct that denied the right of ascension.
Whew.
The side effect is it put us in an infinity loop. And because of the infinity loop, we had to keep coming back at every close of the age until somebody flip us out of the infinity loop, and everybody got the same equal rights of ascension.
Mm-hmm.
The great debauchery, if you go back, Bobby Hemming say, the Egyptian priests looked at each other and said that we made a man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the goal was to force us apart to draw us together. It was basic reverse psychology. A good understanding is J. Rogers' Sex and Race and Nature Knows No Color Line. Because these people was created and one of the channels of their spinal column was blocked, they couldn't assimilate what was called the sacred secorium or the sacred secretion.
Mm.
Therefore, every time they got ready to awaken to full consciousness, it either did several things. It turned them into Stephen Hawkins. That means that their mind is thinking too high and it breaks down the body.
Damn.
To prevent them from reaching godhood or ascension, giving them the rights of ascension. The second thing it do is it causes a massive stroke that can cause either 50% or total paralysis of the physical vessel. Another thing that it do is it entirely shuts the vessel down. Right where it's starting to wake up, it automatically shut the vessel down. We call that death. Right? Now, the remedy for what they had done was to give a drop of what we call the royal blood. This is when everybody was given the decree that if you come into the earth realm, you have to take on a human form.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the mythical creatures volunteered to give a drop of blood from whatever their star system they came from, and to bring consciousness enhancing items to the earth. Some of them brought crystals, some brought plants of different types.
Like weed, like that?
Yeah, that came from the Dogon star. Those are from the ones we call the Duwanis, right? Intellectual Ewoks.
Who bought the alcohol, Rod?
Alcohol is made. That's an Anunnaki thing because they like beer. They came here already with appetite for alcoholic beverage. The Earthborn never had any use for alcoholic or fermented beverage, right? But that was introduced by the Anunnaki as a means of quieting down those noisy Lulu, what they call a Lulu. There was us, the Earthborn, the servant. Mm-hmm. They had came down here and used science to subjugate us. Mm-hmm. And our scientists were summarily executed in mass. So now we don't got nobody to fight science with science. Now everything falls back into the lap of the sisters who was priestesses. So this is the last wave because the priestesses is rising back to their status, and the Great Mother being restored on her throne automatically overthrows their homosexual priest cults.
This shit get real deep, Rod, when you start talking,
So
man.
when you look at the epithets of America, one of them is the great melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
The melting pot, this is all in reference to genetics,
Mm-hmm.
right? You remember the Margaret Sanger?
Yeah.
She was a mulatto, by the way.
Yeah.
Margaret Sanger was a mulatto. She's more like an octoroon.
Mm-hmm.
She was that girl from Imitation of Life who hated her mother because her mother's dark skin.
Mm.
Right? It's the same with J. Edgar Hoover. He was a mulatto.
Okay.
The one who started the COINTELPRO to keep us from ever coming to the awareness. But remember, the stronger the opposition, the stronger the power that rises from it.
Mm-hmm.
The eugenics program was Inky's reverse genetics breeding program, where they used the taboo system of reverse psychology to force the indigenous people all over the planet to give a drop of earthborn blood to something that was created. They had to stay here. They was made here.
Yeah.
So they need a drop of blood in order to tie you into the vine, in order to cure the defect that the Anunnaki created when they made them. And they called them Lulu Amalu, which means primitive worker servants or primitive slave servants. Right? So when you got to the great melting pot, everybody that get one drop of blood, what they classified as now?
Black.
They black. Well, that's all it take. Now, how many amalgamations do it take to breed out that drop of blood? It'll never happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's octoroons and quadroons passing as Caucasians and pale faces. They all got their drop of blood.
Mm-hmm.
So now the level, the ascension field is wide open for the ones willing to do the self work. So what do you see on the heels of that? You see Madame Blavatsky in 1900, right? But then you see, what's that lady name? Start with a D. Dolores Cannon. At the end of the 100-year stretch, right? Now, Dolores Cannon, she's about 60, 70 something years old, born in the middle of that stretch in order to carry them through. So it's a system to give all of the information back to the originals to figure out what the problem is. But if you feed into any form of divide and conquer, you blind it. And you get stuck looking at stuff like Umar Johnson, right? And why did I use him for an example? Because Frederick Douglass was Native, and in Nat Turner is classified as Native, but he said he unapologetically African, and ain't nobody from his bloodline from Africa, right? So if he telling the truth. If he really descended from Frederick Douglass and really descended from Nat Turner, which I don't know, that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But if he really descended from them like he say he is, that he wouldn't be unapologetically African. He would be unapologetically organic to this land, walking Mississippi clay dirt like me.
Mm.
But he got stuck in his misunderstanding of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was never designed for us to go back to Africa physically. It was to go talk to Africans so they could say, nigga, you ain't from over here. You from over there.
Mm.
And that's what established the confraternity that Garvey talked about. And Garvey used the Back to Africa movement because it was a guy before him that created the Liberia movement when all of the natives moved to Liberia like some damn fools and created the Lone Star State. It's a mirror to Texas because that's where they originally from. The Southern United States, old Mississippians. Now we on both sides of the water. They was confused when they left, but they got good sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Africans over there was telling them the whole time. And you want to honor James Monroe by giving the capital of your stolen land the name Monrovia. But we don't know that stuff because we don't care about them people over there. We ain't from Africa. We don't have no natural drive to study Africa, right? The ones over here got a natural drive to study that them kettle pots cooking at Mardi Gras. We got a pull to New Orleans. We got a pull to Mississippi. We got a pull to Florida. We don't got no pull to Africa. And we don't know why we keep wanting to tell them people we ain't from Africa. That's because we was already here. Mm-hmm. It don't mean we didn't trade and intermarry with the people of Africa, because we did for thousands of years with no issues and no problems. But somebody came out of Europe after they lost to the Paleface and wanted to conquer us and replace us. And then the Paleface tried to conquer both of us over here, and our trick no good. It's the garden plot. So while we in dirt, literally, trying to figure out who we is, they gonna harvest on top of us the fruits of our labor. And they did it. Now we didn't poke through the soil. We didn't sprouted new life. We came up from the oppression, realized that the oppression that created this chapter called misery is all an illusion that we are playing along with by staying angry at some shit that don't got nothing to do with us. Anytime you pick up another man's anger, you are far from reaching the pinnacles of wisdom. I don't care if Muhammad didn't like that Jewish dude. That don't got nothing to do with me. Zayd, whatever his name was, right? And the Jewish, all them people was in the Middle East. We over here in North America. This shit going on in the 1400s or 1400 years ago in the 500s or something. That don't got nothing to do with us over here, because at that same time they was doing that over here, we was having corn festivals, turkey harvest festivals. We was having pumpkin harvest festivals. We was having different types of Mardi Gras type celebrations everywhere. We would laugh and all night long and have fun everywhere we went. Now we got to fight everywhere we go. They turned our love story to a war story. We just trying to get it back to a love story.
Right, I would ask two more questions before you get out of here. Before I do that, I seen somebody had mentioned your Cash App. Let me see, Rod Hayes. I remember it's SIK, capital APE. Yeah, I want to share the brother for those of you who ask about the brother's Cash App. Let me, where is this at? Yeah, for those of you who are interested in supporting the brother, $, capital SIK APE, Sick Ape. All right.
That's capital APE.
Yeah, capital APE. Shit, we got 3,500 people. Make sure this was an amazing talk with this brother tonight. But make sure you hit up the brother's Cash App and show love. There was one I want to ask you, Rod, because you talk about Haiti. All right, this individual, Rod, wants to know, why does world peace have to go through Haiti?
Because in the contract that they had us under, the last have to be first. So no matter what litmus test you use for this hemisphere of the world, Haiti is last in everything. So when everything come in, Haiti had to be prepared to be in the first place of redemption. They got to be the first redeemed, literally, for the rest of us to follow. That's the first step, major step. So what you're seeing right now, the canal, everybody mad at the Dominican Republic for telling them not to build it. The side effect is what they're not noticing. The Dominican Republic has to push on Haiti because that's the other side of the island and they was conquered by the same people. And by pushing on Haiti, it causes the people from the Haitian side of the island to all start to stop fighting each other and join forces to get this canal because they understand the life-saving benefits of it. You got to get these people from these different family groups in Haiti to work together. Dominica is serving as the stressor. And the canal's resolution is serving as the buffer in the great teaching of the great hierarchy. So when Dominican is pushing Haiti to not build the canal, it's making all of the resolve of the people of Haiti to stand together in unison with one voice and say, we building this motherfucking canal, whether you want us to or not. But this is a side effect of closing out the conjure. The canal would have never been started had they not started to close out the conjure. Right. So it's a whole lot going on where Haiti is a big deal to us indigenous people all over the world, but we don't understand to what degree. If a lot of people watching for a while know, I've been told them Haiti does not trust any of the Western nations to come to Haiti for anything. Don't come peacekeeping, don't come negotiating, and they pick the people from Africa that they are willing to trust to help them rebuild to come over there as UN peacekeeping forces. Everybody going over there from Africa is specifically handpicked by Haiti. Anybody go over there that ain't handpicked, I feel sorry for them because you're probably going to find their shoes hanging on the telephone line in the Brooklyn.
Shit.
That if they don't ask you to come help, don't go help. They only going to accept help from the people that they trust because they done been infiltrated and usurped so much that they got a process, both spiritual and physical, that they go through in order to know who to trust. So if you go down there talking about you finna help them and they didn't ask for you to come, boots on the line. That's all I can tell you. Taking a big risk. In Dominica right now are the same way under the pretense of anybody that come there and they don't know who you are and where you from, you automatically presume Haiti to be fed to the Haitians at their own discretion to do with you as they please when they exile you to Haiti. That means stay away from the entirety of the island until they work out their issue. When the canal is done and Haiti is unified, then Dominica is going to reach out and for a peace talk. That's when you're going to know the shit done got stable. But in the meantime, I wouldn't go down there. You can contact somebody if you know somebody from there. If you ain't from Haiti and your bloodline don't trace to Haiti, because they can smell the difference in your skin, in your scent. They know a Haitian that's born abroad from a Haitian born on the island, but they also know anybody that's not Haitian anywhere in the world come there, you might look Haitian. They can smell the difference, literally. Them old ladies down there that you think don't got no significance, that's the watchdog team. They can smell foreigners. I don't care how good your accent is, they can smell you. We all got a different pheromone that tells them where we from.
Yeah, interesting, man. Wow. Yeah, thanks for asking that question, brother. Let's get to this. I think this is going to be the last question, Rod. Will going toward darkness allow you to make the choice of when to come back to Earth instead of being blindly reincarnated back here?
When you go to the darkness, you go straight back to Big Mama, and it's up to you and Big Mama at that time if your personality, right, which is your super ego. You gotta remember, your ego is your regular artificial self the world gave you. Your super ego is the identity of self that comes from your spiritual source. That's why we change our names for spiritual purposes as we evolve. Because it's telling us, it's unraveling the layers of the self to get to the higher self to see from a higher perspective. Right? So it don't matter whether you go into the light or whether you go into the dark. Because the same thing gonna happen. It's just who you gonna answer to. When you go through the light, you replay everything you went through. And you basically going into the teacher's lounge to check your test to make sure you passed everything. And then if you didn't, you flip back in right before that test, pass that test, and you flip right back out. Right. But to the naked eye, you was a walk-in, but they didn't see you come in and they didn't see you leave. You just needed your consciousness to refocus at a certain point in the timeline in order to pass your test that you wrote yourself, right? But you couldn't get out of here unless you passed the test because you have to follow the path all the way to the end. So when you go through the light, you're going to automatically see that everything you thought you was going through that was misery, because you was in the chapter of misery and it was meant to be that way. And you picked the suffering because you were strong enough to take it. And the other people that wasn't, they picked the ease. The strongest ones stay on the bottom the longest.
Do you think when people say like when people talk about this near-death experience, some people will say you might get greeted by, let's say you believe in Jesus, or let's say you believe in Buddha, or a loved one, your mother or your father, and they'll tempt you. It'll be like a this entity that's trying to trap you, but they'll disguise themselves as these beings to trick you back here. Have you ever heard of that? Is there any truth to that?
That's true. That's based on your belief system. Look, if I don't believe in Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, or Confucius, when I leave, none of them gonna have nothing to do with what I love the most. I don't love none of them more than I love my mom and my daddy. So the first people I don't agree when I cross over gonna be my mom and my daddy. Because I don't love their Jesus more than my mom and daddy. I don't love their Yahweh more than my mom and my daddy. So there's nobody else except for other relatives that I loved as much as my parents, like my older sister, that I could even see going across that would even make me give a fuck. Right. All that is your belief system actualizing your exit strategy. So imagine you have a meeting with yourself and you say, how am I going to know when it's the right exit? I'm going to see Jesus. I'm going to see Muhammad. Or I'm going to see Fatima. Or I'm going to see Kalima. Or I'm going to see Hanuman. Whatever your agreement that shows you your exit, that's your construct. That's your exit construct that you created based off the life you live so that you'll know which way you want to go when you leave. Right? You can either, like, some book of lives are long and they got chapters. You might not want to go through the rest of the chapters. You can trade out for a walk-in to come in between chapters or in the middle of a chapter. Some of them that thought the misery here was too great already did it. Right? And then they got to the other side, like, damn, I was at the end. Shit, I fucked up. Right? Then a lot of them know we at the end and they exiting because they want to come back as a child when everything been fixed. They don't want to see the grand finale. They don't give a fuck. Fuck your grand finale. Your big finish. I don't give a fuck. When I just want to see it when it's fixed. I don't want to see the misery end. I just want to see it when it ain't there. Right. But the story will still be told for eons to come until the next close of the age. Then we're going to create a new story for the next age. And it always starts with 7 generations planning. You got to plan for 7 generations. You can't close the age unless you got a plan that's going to have optimum efficiency or optimum effect for 7 generations. Right? After that, then the ones what's in the construct will carry the construct from the 7th generation to the close of the next age. But that's the reset. At the end of every reset, it's a golden age. And that's why you got a 24,000 year clock, 6,000 years, 6,000 years, 6,000 years, 6,000 years. lunar cycle, sun cycle, lunar cycle, sun cycle, right? But the lunar used to be Lilith. So they put this moon shit here. I believe this is when they put the hologram up. Because you can sense the hologram, and the only way to get out of the hologram is to think above it. All it is it's a mind jamming system to keep you caught in constructs and cycles, the infinity loop. And the flip out of the infinity loop is to think above the 4-bit quantum encrypted artificial intelligence. If you can't think higher than artificial intelligence, you're an NPC. That means that you are right in line with artificial intelligence, because NPC's intelligence is artificial. They just programs. But they all come in with a book of life. Every program come in with a purpose. You're not just here. You got a purpose. Everybody got a purpose. Right? But I can't tell another person what their purpose is, but I can identify a gift that they have that got something to do with their purpose. If somebody's a good writer, 9 out of 10, their purpose was to write something. But what they supposed to write, I don't know if they're supposed to be Stephen King or the Apostle Paul, but I know they're supposed to write something. Right? And to tell them that is to encourage them, but it ain't to give them their destination.
Right.
It's to just help them identify their purpose.
That's deep. Yeah. Yeah, man, powerful, Rod. We could be on here for 5 more hours, man. So I think let me see, Rod. Hold up. Give me a second. This last one, Rod. This is the last one. Last one, Rod. Then we're gonna get out of here. Because this is good. So I want one more. How does one keep their mind when in a system meant to institutionalize military or prison? Guess they asking how to keep their sanity.
Yeah. Well, but the purpose, all right. When you're looking at the military or prison as a oppressive construct, it's going to drive you to the depths of misery. Some people become suicidal and can't take it. But when you repurpose what they gave you for their intentions for what you could use it for to your greatest good, you no longer feel oppressed. You fuck this just as part of the process. Right? It's just like you don't know what every screw on your car for. Right? But you know if you turn the screw on the oil pan, you're gonna let the oil out. Right? So that don't got nothing to do with the screw behind the door. But by understanding how you can use releasing the oil in order to change the oil, it becomes beneficial. But if you just turn the screw and release the oil and take off driving, you're going to blow your engine. So when I was in prison, in my mind, I wasn't in prison. In my mind, I was in a monastery and a institution of learning in which I had to write my own curriculum while I was there.
Powerful,
and that's what I did.
Powerful.
So instead of letting them use it to make me conform to the ways of the institution, in other words, behave like the rest of the inmates or behave how I want to behave and not be hostile to the inmates, right? Just going about my business, stay in my lane and do my thing and follow my purpose. It's a monastery, a place for religious contemplation or spiritual contemplation, monastery, and it's a learning institution. It's a university to me, right? So now I got access to books and I got access to my spirit. So that's all I need for it to be a monastery. And that takes away the bitterness and the sting of the condition. The same would apply if I would have been in the military. I tried to go to the Marines because it was something I wanted to learn in the Marines about dogs. And they were the only ones offering the training programs for the K9 Corps at the time. Right? Later on, the Army had it first, I think. Then the Marines had it, and the Army had cut it out for a couple years in the 80s, and then they picked it back up. But during the time when I was applying, I had never got in no trouble or nothing. I missed the math on it by 1 point. and that stopped me.
Mm.
The whole test, whatever the civil service test, by me being a non-graduate, I needed a higher score than a graduate.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a high school diploma, I would have had a high enough score to get in. But because I didn't, I needed a higher score, and I was 1 point short,
Mm-hmm.
which kept me from being a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I ain't never get mad about it. I went on by my life, end up in prison. So either way it went, whether I would have been a Marine or whether I went to prison, which I did, I was still going to use whichever one to my greatest advantage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I didn't know how much I loved studying military strategy and tactics until I started playing chess in prison or in the county jail, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then I began to study chess, which was also part of my determining my path. And then when I read Alexander Dumas, Count of Monte Cristo, that spoke to my condition. And that opened up my eyes to a lot of stuff that I was dealing with in there. And then all of the stuff, it didn't matter no more. And then out of nowhere, guys was bringing me different books that wasn't in the library. I was having mystical experiences of phantom books in the library.
Wow.
That shit was crazy, brother. But all of this stuff was true. It was all part of what I was experiencing and keeping my sanity under somebody else. Because I couldn't figure out how can 72 guards hold 1,400 inmates. I was baffled.
Mm.
Fuck that fence. Right? I couldn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. And the study of the inmates in the institution, trying to figure out what's making us stay here. Why are we staying here? Talking to the old guys, why is we staying here?
Mm-hmm.
Said, because you can't never get none of these motherfuckers organized well enough to leave.
Mm.
And then it made all click. Because you can't get the Moles to ride with the Melanics. You can't get the Melanics to ride with the Stones. You can't get the Stones to ride with the GDs. All this in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can't get the set from this side of Detroit to ride with the set from that side of Detroit, east side versus west side. And on east side, you got the 7 mile niggas versus the 6 mile niggas versus the 5 mile niggas. And so the division began to prove itself. Divide and conquer is real. Which go back to that drop of blood question earlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the divide and conquer can also be used as reverse engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you can use the only way you're gonna make a guy do something you don't want him to do that he don't want to do is to tell him he can't do it. And he gonna do it, and he gonna do it twice, take pictures, and make sure you seen him doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they told us what the new standard of beauty was and that we can't have it, and we went full throttle to get it.
Oh, yeah.
But it was all part of a ploy just to get us to contribute to the one drop doctrine. Mixing and amalgamating of the species of the human type in order for everybody to have an equal right of ascension. The term they use for it is Brazilianization or neutralization, the neutrinoid.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a write-up in People magazine about it.
Mm.
You know, and it was to make all of the people of the earth contribute a drop of blood, but you had people came from other places. Right? You had Pleiadians came, Arcturians came. They all want to see the Anunnaki lose too. Because everybody had conflict with them at one point or another.
Yeah. Anunnaki, they just said they got beef with everybody, huh?
They the galactic problem child from the Sirius constellation.
The galactic problem child. Shit on that
Yeah,
note.
everywhere they go, certain side of the family that come from Sirius cause the problems. And the other side of the family that come from the Pleiades always cleaning up their dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So Inky is from the Pleiadian side of the family, but Enlil is the rightful heir. He just so happened to be from the reptilian side of the family,
Mm-hmm.
the Syrians.
Mm-hmm.
And they side of the family, selfish, self-centered, operate from the reptile brain more than they do from the mammal brain. Whereas the Pleiadians operate from the whole brain without taking sides, which gives them more power. Right? And this is why it was always a conflict. So look at it in terms of thinking selfishly or thinking holistically. Holistically speaking, everybody got to have an equal right of ascension in a free will universe. Selfishly speaking, I don't give a fuck about them long as I sin. Right? The God mind is a universal mind. A universal mind is a mind that is holistic. It's a whole mind. A selfish mind is restricted. It's the side effect of being created in a restricted will universe. Right? So those in the free will universe that's seeking the highest potential expression of the free will universe will think more holistically. Unified field theory. Don't do that, brother, because that's going to affect this over here, and we're going to have a different problem. Right? Mm-hmm. So the matriarchy start with the two core premises. How does it affect the children? How does it affect the earth? Once you give me the answers, I can determine whether it's going to be applicable or not. Mm-hmm. Whereas the invaders, they don't think like that. They think, how am I going to benefit and what am I going to get out of it? There's two different ideologies. One's matriarchal, one's patriarchal. In the matriarchy, the strongest patriarchies emerge from a holistic ideology. And this is how you conquer the restricted will universe dominating the free will universe. Because you have to create a ruler class of men. In other words, you got to create classy men, because the only thing that separates peasants from royalty is character. Remember, I just mentioned Alexander Dumas, Count of Monte Cristo. Right. This is what the old guy was teaching him the whole first half of the book. Mm. How to become the royalty that you wish to conquer. Mm-hmm. Once he understood how to become and act like royalty, they can't tell he's not royalty. Mm. Right? And because he picked a rank account, he could be any of these kings' illegitimate child with wealth. Right? But it was all an elaborate illusion that he created in order to get revenge. So the flip to that is it tells us in order for us to get revenge, we have to flip their elaborate illusion. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can't be a god if you can't do some god shit. Right. And I always say that because I tell people, first you got to find out what god shit is. And how can you in your physical vessel do some god shit? Right? Because this is that you got to challenge the mind to think beyond the 3D construct in order to push the mind above three-dimensional thought form. Mm-hmm. Right? They run around saying, I'm God, I'm God, I'm God, I'm the original man. Okay, prove it. How do you prove you're the original man? When your DNA, if you go back 4 grandparents ago, is so diverse, you don't even know what you is. Mm. Right? And all of these is mind games, deceptions inside of a deception, inside of a deception. They all divide and conquer. The God mind don't take none of this shit personal. Mm. If you don't take none of it personal, it can't personally affect you. Right. That's called building a shield. then now that it no longer affects you, you can see it better than you could when it was affecting you. Because when it affects you, you become infected with the 3D Mr. Smith mind matrix. You become a guardian of the hologram, the projection, the mental construct. If all of us wasn't agreeing on this construct at the same time, it wouldn't be happening. Now we got to all agree to change it for the better or to totally annihilate it. It's not necessary to annihilate it. Therefore, it's necessary that it don't be annihilated. Therefore, the only thing left for us to do is change it. Change is constant, so that means it was going to happen anyway. The inevitability of change tells us that we should push for a change. But you got to remember in the 48, it says, preach the need for change, but don't change too much too fast because it'll shock the conscience of the people. Right? For the worse. But if you can get them to see all of the reasons why we need to change and all of the things that we feel that is stopping us from changing for the better, is not what we did. We didn't come up with racism, but it was written. It's a construct. Inside of the construct is trying to preserve itself from being broken by the mind of the gods. In other words, artificial intelligence, 4-dimensional quantum encryption, is trying to convince you not to go to 5-bit or more quantum encryption so that you can see above the hologram.
Right.
Which makes all of this stuff makes perfect sense.
Right.
But in the hologram, you miserable.
Right, man, you dropping this shit, man. Yeah, this is a powerful show, man. Listen, leave your contact info for everybody who wants to get in touch with you or they want to reach out to you, anything, brother.
Y'all can message me on Facebook under Rod Hayes or Instagram under the Sick Ape, the same as my Cash App with the in front of it instead of the $. And otherwise, you catch me on here on Brother Black Magic every now and then, or you can catch me on Young Elder. If you want to message me, you can message me on Instagram or Facebook. I try to check my messages regular, but some people I need to. If I got to write a book to answer, I'm not going to answer. Some people ask a question, I got to read a book, and then I got to write a book to answer. That's too much. I can't answer that. But I try to answer as many people as I can.
Indeed. Hey, I want to thank, we had a packed house tonight. We got about 3,500 people in the chat. Shout out to all of y'all for coming on tonight, listening. I want to thank the brother Rod Hayes for coming on once again and touching on this topic. A lot of misinformation out there on the internet. I always like to run things by brothers like Rod or Dr. Valentine to get their thoughts on all the information that's out there, because it could be a bit confusing to a lot of people sometimes. So on that note, brother Rod, thanks so much, my brother. This is Brother Rich. We signing out. See you next time, family. Peace.